Thank you, Dr. Tim. Great discussion.
You're welcome.
Good example, too.
Have a wonderful show.
Thank you. So welcome, everybody, to the second hour of MindShifters Radio, and today is Friday, August the 11th, 2023, and their call-in number is 563-999-3581, and press 1, and that puts you into queue to talk to us, and we would love to hear your comments and questions because that makes this your show. And while we're waiting on Michael to dial in, that all just reminded me of a poem that it actually popped up on my phone, and I have no idea who sent it to me or what, but it was after my mom passed away, and it meant a lot to me, and I actually forwarded it to our daughter-in-law, Jamie, when she lost her dad this past week, and she actually had it printed and put on the program that they did for her father's funeral. And it's called Death is Nothing at All, and it's by Henry Scott Holland. And it says, death is nothing at all. It does not count. I have only slipped away into the next room. Nothing has happened. Everything remains exactly as it was. I am I, and you are you. And the old life that we lived so fondly together is untouched, unchanged. Whatever we were to each other, that we are still. Call me by my old familiar name. Speak of me in the easy way which you always used. Put no difference into your tone. Wear no forced air of solemnity or sorrow. Laugh as we always laughed at the little jokes that we enjoyed together. Play, smile, think of me, pray for me. Let my name be ever the household word that it always was. Let it be spoken without an effort, without the ghost of a shadow upon it. Life means all that it ever meant. It is the same as it ever was. There is absolute and unbroken continuity. What is this death but a negligible accident? Why should I be out of mind because I am out of sight? I am but waiting for you for an interval. Somewhere very near, just around the corner. All is well. Nothing is hurt, nothing is lost. One brief moment, and all will be as it was before. How we shall laugh at the trouble of parting when we meet again. Oh, and I'll take a breath. That was, to me, very powerful. Just, and we actually had seen a movie, and I've not been able to find it since, but it was about a woman who was passing away with cancer, and she had 2 small children and a husband, and she was explaining to them basically that same thing. She said, if I go into the kitchen and you're in here in the den, she said, am I really absent? No, I'm just in another room. And it's the same when I pass, that I'm still here, I'm still with you, I'm just in another realm. And both of those came to me right after she passed, and it was just a great comfort and a reminder that, even though that we are individual, we are all still connected, and if it that helps to alleviate the perceived pain that we have when we perceive that we have lost something or someone. And so, yeah, that's a great discussion, and we are all one, but yet we are all individual. So Michael has joined us, and I'll say, go ahead.
Interesting how the Aramaic, which is a language based in the physics of the world, not based in men's minds, in the Aramaic language, the word dead means present elsewhere. That's what the word means in Aramaic. Doesn't mean finito, gone, done, over with. It just means present elsewhere. And, one of the things that we're very careful of with, let's say, for instance, with Aria, there are times when I've gone away for a weekend, or, I went and did an intensive season at Heartland, came back, and I've been gone for a couple of months. When I got back, did I say to Aria, did you miss me? Were you sad that I was gone? Were you afraid that I'd never come back? Well, you can brainwash people with missing and being sad and pained and traumatized over anything or nothing, and people can do it. with their minds, because when you think a thought, it's interesting. I was actually just listening to a video as I was driving. I'm out driving right now, and you might want to jump on and give it a listen. If you want to search on YouTube, search how our genes listen to our beliefs. How our genes listen to our beliefs. And it's by Bruce Lipton. And he's just reviewing the idea, the Aramaic idea. If you go to the opening words in the book of John, we're told by the Greeks, who are working out of the minds of men and didn't have a clue about the truth. If Yeshua sat in most of churchianity's buildings today, he'd say that's all Greek to me. But the Greeks told us that the opening words in the book of John said, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word became flesh and dwelt amongst us. And they equate that with the man Yeshua. In Aramaic, those same words, properly translated, say, in the beginning was the mind energy, and the mind energy became flesh and dwelt amongst us. Or in the beginning was the willed action, another proper translation for those words. In the beginning was the willed action, and the willed action became flesh. Now, I get to live with the flesh of my mind energy, and you get to live with the flesh of your mind energy. If I think a thought of hate or rage or trauma toward you, who gets the mind energy of that hate or rage or trauma but me? We see people going around all the time. We live in a culture where by the time you're 4 years of age, you have become pretty much a card-carrying member of the one world religion of blame, because the whole mind energy game is about how everything that's not right in my life is somebody else's fault. And it's time for us to give up that Greek crap. I mean, it's just hogwash. And recognize that where they used to think, that the brain of the cell was the core of the cell, the genes in the cell. But what they discovered is they could take the whole inside. They could take, just like you took an ice cream scoop and scooped out the inside of the cell, and the cell went on and functioned perfectly. One of the questions Bruce Lipton asked, which I thought was kind of funny, I just finished listening to this. He says, just leave it to a bunch of male scientists to think that the inside of the cell, which is actually the reproductive mechanism of the cell, calls that the brain. Men, where are your brains? They're not inside of your cells. The core of the cell, the genes in the cell, are the gonads of the cell. That comes up with a rather humorous joke in our culture about where men's brains are. But they can take the core, they can take everything out of the cell, and the cell functions fine. However, if they take that same cell and they use an enzyme to digest, to eat off, to disappear the antenna, the receptor sites on the cell, then the cell stops functioning. So the core of the cell is the reproductive mechanism. It's not the brain. A lot of men think with the reproductive mechanism instead of their brains. Anyway, I thought that was rather humorous. But what he's pointing out, and of course the Aramaic came along 2,000 years ago with this, in the beginning was the mind energy. And when you source mind energy, if there's a receptor site on the cell for the mind energy that you're engaging in, then that mind energy lands on the receptor site and turns on or turns off a gene to produce or reproduce something that's already in the gene. If you want to introduce something new, you have to have new mind energy. You have to think with a different mind than the mind you've always thought with if you want a different life, if you want a different physical expression, if you want to let go of your physical, mental, emotional, financial, relationship diseases, you have to come to your life with a different mind. Mind energy becomes flesh through the mechanism of the cell. So if we brainwash a child to miss, to be sad about the fact you're not there, we're so ego-centered that we're creating trauma for that child, that child, unless they have the tool to remove the impact of the mind energy, will live with for the rest of their lives. And what's the tool with which to remove that mind energy? The tool is forgiveness. So if there's something in the cell that reproduces in the expression of disease, you better get about learning how to remove that expression, or you're going to get to live with it over and over and over and over again. Actually, there's a book about that. You can download it free from our website. It's called Why Is This Happening to Me Again? Why is it happening to you again? Because you or somebody in your bloodline thought it. That's what started it all. You were given the power of creation at your creation. You were given the power to originate mind energy. All the cell can do is replicate whatever's in it. It can source nothing. And it's time for us to wake up. And the skill that Yeshua invites people to do, and if you go back 2,000 years ago, there's a particular scene where he's explaining to them what they have to do, and literally half of his disciples at that point whined, moaned, complained, and left saying too hard a thing. They were so distraught over having to do the inner work of cleaning up their own genetic history and cleaning up their own minds that as they left, go read that passage. Yeshua turned to Peter and said, "You going to leave too? Is it too much for you too to take responsibility as a creator?" So what this man presented was a technology with which to remove the energetic patterns of the mind energy reflected by your generations and recreate your life, recreate your physiology, recreate the state of your health. Mind energy. Your mind energy becomes your flesh. And you know what? It doesn't matter who you think it about. If you think a thought of hate, guess who gets the quote-unquote chemistry? Because what Bruce Lipton has shown in the laboratory is when you think a thought, that thought produces a molecule called a neuropeptide. That neuropeptide lands on a cell, and that cell replicates the neuropeptide chemically within the cell. Now let's bring Einstein into the picture. And Einstein says, on such things as matter, we have been all wrong. What we have heretofore called matter is energy, energy whose vibrations have been so lowered as to be perceptible. There is no matter. So you don't live in a material world. Your eyes trick you. Your brain has been trained to see certain things that exist only within your brain, because your brain paints pictures on the inside of your eyeballs. You look and you say, "Oh, I'm looking out there and I see what's out there." I promise you, you will never see anything outside of you with your eyes. You will see your brain's replica of what's outside of you with your eyes. But you don't see it with your eyes. It's a fraud. It's a lie. So when we become aware of how this whole energy system works, we have a whole lot more say about it than we've been taught to believe. And we need to start to take responsibility for and change the game. When you change the game, guess what? The game changes. Well, actually, the game remains the same. It's just the mechanism of control that reflects differently and changes. So as the wake-up call comes in and you start recognizing, I'm the one who's setting this up, then we can let go of all these protective games, all of these fear-based games that people play. Because fear destroys physiology. Fear creates the chemistry of disease. And this work is here to support you and assist you in learning the tools and the techniques for literally ridding yourself of all disease. Forgiveness. Now notice the Greeks turned that absolutely backwards, and they told you that forgiveness was about how you were supposed to let somebody off the hook for the chemistry and the expression of mind energy that you were experiencing inside yourself. So now begins the one world religion of blame. It's somebody else's fault that I'm experiencing this, but it's okay, I'll forgive them. I'll let them off the hook for what's happening inside of me. So now we have each of us, 1,000 generations that have gone before us, all believing that the problem's on the outside. And all I need to do is let somebody else off the hook. And then all of the trash that I've created in my life will go away. Lies, 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 and more lies. This is a wake-up call. Ultimately, if you really want total, complete health as you are designed to have, then you must learn to forgive every piece of mind energy. You must learn to recognize, recapture, and remove everything that never belonged. So there's work to be done. How many generations in your bloodline do you suppose it's been since somebody had this level of understanding of how creation works? Well, I'll say that for me, I can't fathom that anybody in my bloodline ever understood what was going on. And so that means that if you're the first one in the generations to have an inkling of this, then you're the early adopter. And the early adopter has deep, deep, meaningful work to do in order to clean up the whole process of creating your life and stepping into the place where you become a conscious co-creator of your life rather than just playing out the generational patterns of blaming everybody else for what's happening inside of you. So in essence, that's what we're here to do. That's the skill we're inviting you to develop. Now, many people hear this and go, wow, that's really cool. That's really exciting. I've got $5 in 5 minutes. Tell me how to change all of my generational patterns. Well, actually, I can tell you how to do that in just 5 minutes, but you won't do it. I don't know anybody that will do it. Because the one attribute of what we call the non-being mind is inertia. And if you remember from physics class in high school, the definition of inertia. Definition is that it says, is that a body moving in a particular direction at a particular rate of speed will tend to continue moving in that direction at that rate of speed until it's acted upon by an outside force. Here's the gig. You have to become the outside force that changes what's going on the inside of you if you ever want your life to be different. And you've got to give up your membership card in the one world religion of blame, to which virtually everybody belongs. So, are you ready to do that piece of work? Are you ready to be finished with the game of blame? So, I can tell you how to forgive. It's easy. Very, very simple. Notice that you're never upset with anybody, unless you're just a generally miserable person. Notice you're never upset with anybody as long as they're fulfilling all the goals that you have for them. You're pretty happy with most everybody as long as you're fulfilling. But you'll notice how much rage, fear, condemnation, viciousness can come up when somebody stops achieving the goals you hold for them. When someone refuses to fulfill your goals. So here's how forgiveness is done. Literally, in less than 5 minutes. Took me 35 years to understand this, working with it full time, from the Aramaic. Goals drive perception. If pained content is in your cells and resonated by a goal that you hold, then your mind will produce a perceptual construct based in pain. If you want to collapse that goal, then you must forgive. And the word forgive in Aramaic is shabag or shabak, and it literally means to cancel. So here's what you do to forgive. Whatever the goal is, when you're in some sort of pain or turmoil, you cancel that goal. When you cancel that goal, the perceptual construct based in the content of your mind that may be 10 generations old collapses. When it collapses, if you bring love present to whatever is beneath it, then the removal of whatever is beneath it, that which creates pain, trauma, and disease, suffering, disappears. It heals. It's forgiven. So there you go. That's all it takes to learn forgiveness. Now, the challenge is going to be overcoming your inertia-bound mind. This is no, Bill's to blame, no, Harry's to blame. I'm only upset because of what you did. You've got to give up your card-carrying capacity in the one-world religion of blame. You've got to give it up. You're not upset because Bill said something. You're not upset because your baby did something. You're not upset because your mother or your father or your sister or your spouse or your neighbor did something. You're upset, and you have a particular quality of upset you're very familiar with. Read my book, Why Is This Happening to Me Again? That's the only thing you'll be doing, is playing out your Why Is This Happening to Me Again dynamics. And you're only doing it because it's inside of you. Your assignment, should you choose to accept it, and this tape will self-destruct in 5 seconds, your assignment is to face everything based in any form of hostility or fear that is anywhere in your genes, which means anywhere in your bloodline over the last whatever number of thousands of years that your family system has been in existence, that your cultural programming has been occurring, and remove it. There you go. There you go. You got the 5-minute speech. That's how it's done. I don't have to say any more. Your challenge is going to be overcoming your inertia because your mind's moving in a particular direction at a particular rate of speed. And if it's not moving in the direction of being responsible for what's going on inside of you, for understanding that your energetic dynamics are the only thing that cause you to feel or experience anything, that the only cause for your physical, mental, emotional, relational, financial diseases are those energetic patterns which you hold inside of you. If you don't know that yet, take a while to change the inertia-bound mechanism. But there's how it works. So, Miss Jeanie, does that make sense? Do you have anything to add to that?
I actually do.
Oh, cool. Well, then I'm going to just listen to it. Go for it.
I started looking up Bruce Lipton, so actually in the notes for today, I've included the link to How Our Genes Listen to Our Beliefs. And Bruce Lipton has some many videos out there that you can watch about like the biology of belief, which was his book. So while I was looking for that and taking notes on what Michael was saying, then I also, what I thought about was, depending upon the cell, all of your cells are replaced anywhere from a day to 10 years. They actually said, and I put this link in there too, that on average, the cells in your body are replaced every 7 to 10 years. So you don't have, if you're over 10 years old, you don't have a single cell that you were born with. But those numbers hide a huge variability in lifespan across the different organs of the body. Type of white blood cell may only last 2 days, while the cells in the middle of your eyelashes will last your entire life. And then there was another link that said, while most of your cells are regenerated, the process involved become progressively unreliable over time. Okay, and this was my thought in the beginning before I started searching these links, is that while your cells are replaced, the new cell replicates the cell that it's replacing, such as a copy machine. You put something in it and it makes a copy of it. But this next one is saying that it progressively becomes unreliable. Imagine that you took a magazine article and you put it on a copy machine and you made a copy. You've got a copy of that article, but it's not quite as clear as the magazine itself. All right, and then if you make a copy of your copy and then make a copy of your copy, the more you keep doing that, the more degraded that it becomes. And this guy says that the,
Let me throw a thought in there, sweetie. I would offer that is an interesting set of thoughts, but I would not accept it, and I don't believe it's accurate. It is not
unless you change the cell that it's copying.
Well,
and that's
my point.
That you have to.
So my point would be that the replication is always 100%. It's that we, by putting mind energy in, create the chemistry that degrades the source code. It's not the copying, it's not the replicating, it's not time. You know, that would indicate the number of times would be the reason why you'd end up in problems. But the truth is, it's not because of the number of times it's been replicated. It's what we've been putting into the structure over that period of time that creates the degradation. And the minute that we remove those degrading energies, which interestingly enough in Aramaic were called sin, an archery term means energies that are off the mark, the minute we remove those energies, the perfect cell comes out of that perfect image that was created by the Creator and has never been touched by anything. It's just the overlays that interfere with its replication. That would be my offering on that. Time is not toxic. That's all I've got. Cool. Well, right on track. Awesome. So if you're out there in listener land, how can we support you? What's on your mind? Does that give you something to chew on? Maybe another perspective, or, you know, hopefully building some new brain cells for what comes next. Where are we going here with this process of becoming creators? And thank you for putting Bruce's link in the notes today. There's a lot of good stuff, just fits perfectly with what Bruce is teaching. So cool that we've got that available to us. Thank you, Bruce Lipton. So if you're out there in listener land, you got a thought for us? Our call-in number is 563-999-3581. 563-999-3581. If you call that number, you'll be listening to the show directly. And if you push 1, that'll raise a hand in the control panel, and we'll be having a conversation. How can we support you? What's on your mind? Push 1. Let's talk about it. Miss Jeanie, do we have anybody in the phone queue with a hand up or anything happening in the chat room?
Oh, it is all quiet.
It's all quiet? Well, gee, I would have thought that would have just gotten a whole flurry of conversations going. And I am complete with my thinking at this moment. If we don't have any conversations to be had, I'm complete. I can't imagine we don't have anybody with a comment, a question, a thought, an answer, an idea, something to share with us. 563-999-3581. If you're on one of those stations where we can't see you, give us a call. Push 1.
One of the things that was being talked about at the beginning with Dr. Tim, and was why I read the poem about nothing at all, was a question that had been asked that, let me just scroll down. Someone had asked, if we are all one and we are all connected, will I lose my individuality when I die? And then we talked about that our individuality is precious and preserved, and we are both, and neither is lost. And our perception is restricted, and therefore we don't see the whole picture. So that was what triggered that poem for me was that there's nothing lost. And they had also been discussing the mind goal management sheet, which is another way. I mean, it's still talking about canceling goals that you set for the day. And so I don't know if you want to talk about the mind goal management sheet for a moment.
Well, the simple bottom line is that the way that stress is created is by setting a goal. You know, we hear from the medical profession that the reason why most people visit a doctor's office is because of stress. And people talk about stressful situations. But there are no stressful situations. There is nothing outside of us that causes us stress. Stress is a result of setting a goal. Your physiology wants a standard. You want to be at a certain temperature. If the environment drops to 0 degrees, your structure has a goal to maintain 98.6. And the emotional, mental stresses that we hold come from the goals that we hold and the things that we want in our lives. And when you start recognizing that your stress comes from the inside, again, you got to quit the one world religion of blame. You got to start taking responsibility. And as you take responsibility and remove the roots of hostility and fear, the one thing that this human energy system is designed to function from, the energy that it's designed for, is that of love. And so when you remove whatever is in you that's not based in love, then homeostasis returns to your whole structure. And you get to live in a whole different internal world, which means you also create a whole different external world, or you contribute your energy to a whole different world. And the game changes. So we're here to change the game, or to support people in learning the tools for changing the game. And of course, generations and generations and generations learned the game and have certain attitudes toward the game of life, and most people live out of those attitudes, having no idea that they're changeable. It's up to us as individuals what we choose to do with that. So the Mind Goal Management Sheet, you can go to the website and download it. I'm sure Jeanie's already put a link into the notes for today for that sheet. You can download it. It's pretty self-explanatory. Or there is a video called Getting the Stress You Need that you can order from our catalog, and it explains the use. It's a pretty intuitive worksheet, but it explains the use of that worksheet very, very simply and very straightforward. So grab the worksheet, put it to work in your life, and watch how you get to change your stresses. And you stop creating the stresses that you and your structure and your mind and your emotions don't need, and you start creating the stresses that you do need. Everything changes. And so we're here to support people in changing everything, especially the way you create your stress and the way you create your life. So that's what we'd be here to do. So there are my thoughts, sweetie. You have any other thoughts on getting the stress you need?
No, and we've had some new people just join us, so if you all have a question or comment, press 1.
We've got about 20 minutes for conversation, and I'm complete with what I have to say at this moment. So if you're out there in listener land, push 1 and ask your question. How can we support you? What's on your mind? Again, if you're on one of those stations where we can't see you on our control panel, our call-in number is 563-999-3581. Call that number. You're listening to the show directly, and we'll have a conversation. And if we don't have any questions, I'm complete, unless you have something else, sweetie.
Nope.
All right, well, I'm going to say thanks to everybody for joining us. Have the best year yet of your eternal life, and blessings.